If there were one word to describe Regal Boats, what would that word be?
Integrity. Regal is committed to doing things the right way.
Family. It's the heart of everything Regal builds, their boats and relationships.
Excellence, when intent and execution come together.
Good morning, Mark with Jerry's Majestic. My dad was founded the company in 1984, and I am second gen in taking over the reins from my dad. I'm here with Frank this morning. I met Frank in 2008, going back a few years now. And Frank actually taught me a class. I was a new Regal dealer at that time. And it was like our first year selling Regal boats, and went to a yacht certification class. And Frank taught me all about the big boats. And I got a diploma and got a little jacket that said I was yacht certified. And that's how I met Frank. Frank at the time had worked with Regal for quite a while. And he actually retired from Regal and moved to the Midwest. And I have the pleasure now of working with him every day side by side at Jerry's Majestic. So Frank, why don't you tell us about yourself and all your history and everything like that?
Well, thanks for the kind words, Mark. As you mentioned, I did work for Regal 20 plus years, various roles and such. And our acquaintance when we first met, you know, I've really become to like you and your dad and what you guys stood for. You were always one of the top dealers. And even internally, we talked about how great a dealer you were, taking care of the customers. So it was a natural for me to come up here. And when you guys talked to me and approached me, you know, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go back to work, but I can choose where I work now. I think I've done this for 50 plus years, and I choose to work at Jerry's because of the integrity, how well they take care of the customers. It's great to meet people in a restaurant or just on the street, you know, and they just talk so well about them. And I wanted to be a part of that, so that's why I chose.
It's quite an honor. Thank you for letting me know. So since Frank's been out for just over 3 years, every Regal customer satisfaction survey has been returned at 100%. So we're really proud of that. It actually won the CSI award with Regal in 2025. So that was quite an award to win with them. And then just recently, we were awarded by the Boat Industry Top 100 as the best service department in America. And having Frank on our team has really elevated all of our guys to really get there and make a difference for our customers.
Yeah, well, you said it well, Mark. It is the team effort. You know, maybe I'm a little different set of eyes, but you guys were doing a lot of things right before I walked in the door. So, you know, it's definitely a team effort. And we're really proud of those awards because that's what we really stand for, is service. Your dad built this business on service. He didn't even sell boats when he started. No. I remember him telling that story. One of his customers said, "Jerry, you need to sell boats. I'm going to need a new boat. Where else should I buy it?" That was great. So that's what moved him forward. So
yes, I mean, our motto since we started in 1984 was heartbeat is service of Jerry's Majestic. And it is our heartbeat, and that's what keeps us going and keep our customers coming back for the oil changes in the next boat. You know,
yeah.
So
well, it builds a high level of trust if you're going to spend the kind of money it takes to purchase these new boats. You want to buy it from somebody you can trust.
So Frank, in 2007, we were given an opportunity to look for a new boat line. So my parents went to Florida, looked at a couple different brands, and they came back here and said, "Hey, we're going to try to take on the Regal brand if they'll let us do it." So the rep came here and introduced himself and looked at our facilities and said, "Yeah, you guys are capable of doing this and whatever." So, you know, I was like, "Hey, Mom, Dad, like, what is a Regal?" I never even heard of the boat at the time, you know. On Lake Geneva, there was only a couple of them out there. They were older ones from like the 80s and 90s. And, you know, the lake was dominated by Sea Ray at the time and Cobalt. And I didn't even know what a Regal boat was. So I got on the internet. I had to choke it back then to start it, but I got on the internet and I looked him up. You know, I'm like, "Oh, this is great." So I had the opportunity to go for a factory tour shortly after that. And man, was I blown away. So, Frank, why don't you tell us a bit about the brand, who Regal is, what they do, what they stand for, and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting story. I used to do the tours occasionally when I was there, and how many people said they'd never heard of Regal. So obviously we need to spend more money on marketing. But Paul Cook, who started Regal back in 1969, his focus was more on the boats themselves. He had a hard, strong belief that if you start with good product, in other words, materials, and you have a talented staff and some good designs, then you're going to end up with a great product. And he always focused on that. He didn't like to spend as much money on marketing that he should have. But that is the core. It is family values since it was started. They're multi-generational now, and they're not going anyplace. There's no intention to sell. They're not on the marketplace. I know personally they've turned down many an offer. The other thing that some people probably would know is they're debt-free. They made the choice back many years ago to become debt-free, and that way the stability and the decisions they can make are not controlled by shareholder stress, or we have to make money, and sometimes that lends for not the best decisions.
Sure.
So their focus has always been on build a quality product, pay attention to what people want, and build it in. They'll buy it rather than build what maybe they would want and try and sell it. And that's where that marketing piece comes back in. They just figure if we build the right stuff, people will buy it. So that's kind of how all that came about.
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned family. So it's a family-owned boat business or boat manufacturing plant, and I think there's only one or two other family-owned stern drive products right now that are on the market. So why would that be important to have like a family-owned manufacturer?
Yeah, but I think of the biggest value in that, Mark, is stability. When decisions are made, whether it's in customer service or design or material choices, they're long-term decisions. You're making decisions that are going to get customers for life, not just get this customer right now, you know what I mean, and make a few extra dollars. And so it gives clarity in leadership when those decisions are made, because that company's going to be there for many, many years to come. So it actually makes them easy. It's one of the things that attracted me to Regal, is the fact that those decisions are guided by those principles, and so it makes it easy. Just do the right thing.
So what are like the values and principles, or the mission, I guess, if I would call it that,
Well,
from Regal? What do you think?
Well, I think probably the core value is Tim Cook said it best. We build both, but we're actually in the people business. We talked about family. I believe there's close to 1,000 employees right now, and if you ask any one of those individuals, they would tell you honestly they feel like they're part of a family. So the decisions they make each and every day when they're building the boat, you know what I mean, to do that little extra, make sure it's like it should be, is driven by those values, and they're treated with fairness, and everything they do there revolves around the people. Because if you have strong people, you're going to build a great product. You really are.
Yeah. So it sounds like the people are part of the Cook family, Regal family. All the employees are like family to them, which is great. And that's how I run our business too, the same way.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. And again, that's another reason when you guys approach me, it's like this is where I want to be.
So Frank, there's quite a few boat brands that we have that are excellent brands here at Jerry's Majestic that we carry for our customers. But it seems like Regal is always the most innovative of all of our brands as far as getting out new technology, doing things different than the rest, which makes them easier for us to sell, and the customer gets some really cool things on the boats that not every other brand offers. Yeah. And the factory is basically it's a big campus, and it's set up with smaller plants within the big plant. There's one for upholstery, one for wiring, one for small parts, one for lamination, assembly, all these different things that kind of come together at the end to make the boat. And making us explain to us how that all works, and why it's important for the customer, and they build most everything that they can right there in house. And why is that important to the end customer?
Oh, that's great observation, Mark. How that came about is that Regal early on didn't have those things, and they were purchasing upholstery and different products, especially wiring and stuff. And the quality, though examined when it first came in, was great. And they say, yeah, we like this, but it would drop off after a while. They would be wanting to make more money, the vendors would. And because of that, that inconsistency, they started bringing it in-house, the upholstery, and then eventually the wiring, and they build all their own harnesses and stuff like that. There's other parts in there as well, but once you have it in-house, you control it, you see it every day. If there's a problem with quality, you're not only fixing that one, but you're fixing how it's designed, how it's built, whatever comes into that, you're making it go away forever. So that constant improvement on the product just holds true, and then you get to build that innovation in the next. You know, the innovation part of what Regal sees and what they build into the boats, again, it comes from what customers, you know, would desire, from what's told. But the other thing is, too, that needs to be noted, Regal never used a customer for a guinea pig. They have their own in-house lab. The boats are thoroughly tested before they ever go into production. You know, they're ocean tested in conditions that a customer would never go in, to make sure that they're, you know, they're of that quality. So there's some innovations that Regal walked away from early on. The digital switching, which they have now, which works great, because the, you know, the product is innovative now, and it's got some longevity in use, so it's durable. But early on, this stuff was a nightmare. You turn on the lights and the motor would trim. You know, so they chose at that point not going to do this until this gets worked out.
Not a good decision.
It's got the same reliability as an airplane, because digital switching is the same thing that's in every aircraft nowadays. So that innovation's worked its way over, and certainly they have embraced it and stuff. So they're going to continue to do that, and they're looking out there. They also will not ignore things. In other words, when they put something in and it doesn't work like it should, they don't ignore that. They just don't say, we got to get it to production and such, and kick it forward. I can think of a couple instances where we designed something in the product, didn't work out like what we wanted. We didn't put the boat into production. That's an expensive decision to make. It truly is, because you've spent all this money and you're not getting any return on that investment because you're not selling product. But they will not move forward until it's like it should be.
It's one of the best new things that they did last couple of years, I think, was the Ultimate Trim Series. So now we have, I don't know how many colors of vinyl, but 20-ish colors of vinyl to pick from in these different zones in the boats. So the customer can really customize their boat's interior any way they really want. I think there's like a million different choices, they say in their brochure, which I think is a really great thing for the client to be able to pick out exactly what they want inside their boat.
Well, you know why it took a little while for that to come about? It was the vinyl. If you were to pick dark color vinyls in the past, no, that doesn't work. Not in the sun, you know what I mean?
Sure,
you sit
especially
on
in Florida.
We made that choice one time, had to replace all the seats in a boat for a customer. So the new vinyls that have come out, it's Cool Touch, I think is the name for it. You can have that color combinations and not have, you know, compromises on an uncomfortable seat or anything else. You know.
Yeah, it's been great for the customer. And the Power Swim platform, the Power Tower has been huge for us. When that came out a long time ago, everybody wanted one right away, because it was such a great innovation for a garage door, or for like a shore station canopy, or for a stack building, like a dry stack. It was really a big deal when that came out. So
yeah, well, the design. If you're going to flop those wings open, what happens when you put people on the side? If you don't design for it, that's not a good thing. So somebody else did that. It didn't work out so well for them.
Functional and work great.
Yeah. It's if you got to choose, function's got to come first. You know, but Regal tries not to bring it down to where it's a choice. You can get the function and the form.
So Frank, you mentioned that, you know, these boats are tested and thoroughly tested. So maybe go into some more depth on how they're tested, or where they're tested, and how that all works out.
Sure. Well, I mentioned a couple things. I mentioned the ocean test, destructive testing, and I mentioned the lab, you know, testing the materials. But there's a couple others of note. As Jed Clampett would say, they have quite a few cement ponds. Basically, these are test pools.
It was right inside the factory, right?
Yeah, good boats, the water stays on the outside. Okay, but in that testing, they not only float them, but they also, boats that have cabins, they rain test them to make sure they don't have leaks. You know, again, good boats, the water stay on the outside. But they also have a test track right on the property. It's close to a mile long, where they can actually run these boats performance-wise, and they have a test criteria against it to make sure every boat performs like it was designed. It's not get it to the customer and the customer, hey, you said this thing would run 40 miles an hour and it only runs 38. You know, we know what it runs and we've got it documented. And it's not just take it for a boat ride. Believe me, there's a list of things.
Checklist of things.
Checklist of, absolutely. Yeah. And if something shows up out in the field that maybe was a problem, it gets added to that checklist. That's a living document. That testing is a living document. It's constantly getting better, and you know, looking for things that maybe have shown up out in the field.
And that makes our job easier as a boat dealership to sell the boat to the client. So say it comes in, it's a pre-order, you know, there's not a lot of issue when we get the boat. We can just kind of clean it, and get it out the door, you know. So it makes our job much easier,
Yeah.
and the customer has a better experience right out of the box.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the Regal brand has a boat for everyone. They make bow riders, surf boats, cuddy cabins, center consoles now, yachts from 20 to 50 feet right now. So you can get a 50 SAV or you can get a 2000 ES. And Frank, like, why do they do that? And what's the difference in the quality from the mega yacht to the little 20-footer, you know?
Oh, it's a great question, Mark. Regal's never believed in putting poor quality products, even though it's a smaller boat. The vinyls, the resins, all of the stitching in the upholstery, it's all the same quality, you know what I mean? It's designed for durability and longevity. The reward that they would get, and found out through time, a lot of people get the 2-foot-itis, sometimes the 4-foot-itis.
Sure.
So if you give them a taste of that really great quality, even in a 20 or 22 footer, then they know what to expect when they're spending more dollars on a bigger boat. And you don't have to justify it. They've already seen it. And that's always been a belief, and it was tracked, and it held true that Regal owners buy more Regals, you know, and lifestyle changes. And here's an interesting little fact: had people go the other way. I'm sure you've seen this. It's like, okay, we're done with the really big boat. We want something we can handle.
Trailer or something.
Yeah, so they go down.
Sure.
They go down. And again, that same quality is there. So they're comfortable and they trust that you know, they're going to come looking, you know. They're going to come looking.
Well, I mean, that's great to know that whether you get the small boat or you get the yacht, you have the same quality materials, same gel coat, same upholstery, all the way through the whole lineup of boats, and it's all quality.
Yeah, you know, Mark, there's one other thing too with their in-house testing. They're not only testing it when the product is engineered, you know, for a new product, whatever that is. They ongoing test it. Every load of resin that comes into Regal is tested before it's unloaded into the resin tanks. They won't let them unload it unless it's tested first.
They check the color and everything else.
Yeah, if it's the gel coat, the color match.
Yeah.
But you know, the gel times on the resins, there's a lot in the complexity of resins and good resins. So, but they know what they're looking for, and they pull that test on everyone. It's not always the favorite thing for the truck driver or the vendor. No, we tested it. Well, that's okay. You know, we're selling this to families and our customers, so we're telling them it's good, so we're going to make sure it's good. So, you know, the other side of that is they're never going to send you bad resin because we're not putting it in the tank.
You're not going to take it.
Yeah.
So Frank, as Regal's yacht captain, you got to deliver all the larger vessels to the end clients, to the customers. And maybe you can explain to us or tell us why it's a good family product and what it's like to actually own a Regal and actually get one to your house or to the back of your slip, you know. So
Yeah. What a job, huh?
it sounds like a pretty fun job for most people.
Yeah, I'm going to give you keys to this, and you get to meet some really amazing people. One of the things, Mark, that came out of this that we noticed early on when we were designing the yachts and such is there's so many choices, so many directions you can go. But the customers we noticed that purchased Regals, they earned their money. They had money. They've been successful, whether it was a business or whatever. And they're willing to spend it for things for their family, things that they enjoy. After 9/11, we were amazed how many people actually came and bought boats because they come to realize, you know, life is that fragile. And I'm not going to throw a bunch of pictures of dead presidents in a coffin when I leave. So these individuals, the expectation was that we spent their money well. Things of value. There's never going to be a $2,000 etched mirror in a Regal. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff never really happened. But better quality materials, you know, whether it was the vinyls, whether it was the fiberglass, even the innovation of infused hulls, which adds so much strength and takes out weight. And it's not that Regals are lighter, but the innovation there became, if you take weight out, then you can put it where you want. You can put it in the right places.
Sure.
Not just throw it away. So the families, the joy that I had spending time, because I didn't just go spend an hour or two with them and show them how to run it. Most of the time we traveled. If they were going to make a certain trip, so we would travel together. They would see how to plan the trip as well as run the boat. It was about them and hooking it and unhooking it, you know what I mean, and driving and planning. I was their guide. But to see the joy and how these boats were going to change their lives, and listen to them talk about their plans, you know, after the fact, I was so blessed. I can't even begin to tell you how blessed I was to do that. Each one of these people were special in each and every way, and some of them had some very unusual stories. That's probably something for another day, but they're, you know, how they got there, how they chose Regal, and why they chose Regal. But I can assure you one thing, they chose it because they had a high level of trust. If you're going to spend that kind of money for a boat, you need to buy it from a company you can trust. They're going to be there tomorrow. They put the work forth and the innovation, the testing, everything to get to that point.
Yes, I mean, it sounds like what you're saying is Regal really builds a great product, family business, but they're as important to build a good relationship with the customer long term.
Absolutely.
As much as the product, to make sure that they have a great experience.
Yeah, and the whole Cook family are boaters. You know, they know what that is. They're avid boaters. When they get time off, they're not traveling around in their Airstream. I can promise you that.
Sure.
They're on a boat and they're enjoying it with their family. And so part of the innovation comes from how they use the boat and understand.
Using the product.
Yeah,
actually.
using the product.
Good for
You
them,
know,
right?
using the product. You know, the switch should be here so I can lay in bed and turn it off, not have to climb across, you know, 4 things to get to the switch, or even something as simple as an air conditioning vent blowing on you all the time. That's not good, not comfortable. So the livability of the cruisers and the yachts is part of the testing to make sure you get it right.
Yeah, one of the things you told me back in 2008 was the sea strainer location for the air conditioner.
Yeah.
It's not in the bilge like the competitors' boats. It's in the bilge. So you got to get out of bed. You got to open the hood up. You got to clean your strainer. Whereas it's in the cabin, so you can just open up a little floor hatch and clean out your strainer in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Things you need to get at should be accessible.
I'll never forget that part of the class you taught me. Yeah.
You know, I had a customer one time tell me this. He was in one of our cruisers, and you know why he bought it? Because he could sit on the toilet and close the door. The boat he owned at that particular time, if he sat on the toilet, he couldn't close the door. And it's like, who would design a boat that way?
Those little things that make a
Yeah,
difference.
so you know, when I talk about usability, livability, I'll never forget that conversation.
So Frank, Jerry's Majestic is a family-owned, one-location boat dealership, and we really care about our customers obviously a lot, and making sure that they're treated fairly. From these conversations that we've had this morning, I feel like the Regal obviously also a family-owned business, much larger business, but they care about their customers as much as we care about ours, I feel. And maybe you can explain to us like how we align with our values and our culture of our small dealership versus Regal. You worked there for over 20 years, only been with us for a few years now, but I think you have a great feel for us and how we do business. Maybe you can explain how you feel about how we align.
Yeah, well, I've known you for a while. I've only worked with you
It's true.
day to day for the last 3 years, but you know, Paul Cook started out with 4 individuals in a little warehouse, and he started out small, like your dad did. The history of Jerry's Majestic, I saw the pictures of the van. You know, I can see your dad getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, going out and fixing some guy's fishing boat.
In the old green bread truck, you know.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I used to park in my driveway when I was about 5 years old.
So what comes out of that when a company grows from the seed up to what it is today is the understanding of what's truly important, and that experience that, you know, dealing with customers through time, what their needs are, and meeting and learning to meet those needs and help them. You know, because if you're the boat guy and they trust you, you know, you've got to live up for that and such. The alignment between Regal and Jerry's is so visual that it's not even funny to me. I look at the values of how decisions made with a customer. You know, we have customer goodwill. We talk about that occasionally. Yeah, we don't know who's right here, but we're going to go ahead and take care of it because of our customer. Those values of that are high. In other words, it's not all about the next dollar, and, you know, don't have to worry about paying the light bill. Jerry's is financially stable. That's another thing, so it allows those decisions to be made. The other part of it is, you know, I watch your dad put money into this business all the time. You know what I mean? The amount of rework that we've done and taking the equipment and the property and raising it to the next level so we can still meet those expectations. The other part of it is the relationship with you and your dad. You're coming into the next generation, okay, and you still carry those values. You've been part of this from the get-go. I don't know exactly how young you were, but when you started it, but you understand that and you know how to carry it. You know how to carry those values.
Yeah, child labor law, so I'm not going to talk when I started, but I couldn't pick up a 5-gallon gas tank without using 2 hands.
Okay.
So that's when I started working, which I might have been about my daughter's age, like 7 or 8 years old, you know, so yeah.
Well, after working with you day to day, Mark, too, I see you make the tough decisions right. Not that I'm one to judge, but I am one to observe. And, you know, I see you carry on that tradition, and I believe that's going to be, you know, for the future. So, you know, somebody buys a boat from Jerry's, they're gonna have that feeling. You know, they're not going to sell out tomorrow to heaven knows who. You know, your dad told me the story about how many offers that he had, and he turned those down because he wanted the legacy of Jerry's to live on, and with you, and you know, that's, you know, he told me, he says, I want to bring you in, Frank, so I want you to help with that. You know what I mean? Whatever that is, you know. So.
Well, thanks for all those compliments, Frank. I mean, I'm trying to always do what's right for our employees and for our customers. You know, so that's always the end goal is to make sure we do the right thing, whatever that may be.
Yeah, well, doing a good job.
Thanks.
You're doing a good job. You have a tough market here. You know, I had no clue when I came.
Good competition here.
Yes,
yeah.
you do. But what does good competition do? Makes you better.
That's right.
Yeah, it makes you better.
Well, Frank, I just want to thank you for being part of our team at Jerry's Majestic. You've been a huge asset since we hired you a few years ago to really move the needle with our OEMs and our vendors and our staff and our customers especially. You know, that's what's so important, is giving every one of those customers the great experience that you've given them. So I want to just thank you for that, Frank. You've been a great asset to our team.
Well, thanks, Mark, and thank you for allowing me to join the team. You know, winners like to play with winners, and I feel like I chose a winning team. So makes it fun, makes it good to come to work every day.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
When we sell a customer a new boat, you know, we're not just selling them a boat. We're selling them part of our family and our legacy, and we're going to treat them like family and take care of them.
Yeah, I see that. I understand that.
When you buy a Regal boat, you're not just buying a boat. You're becoming part of a legacy.